Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Intelligent Voices. Today we will be talking about calendar Hebrew days and also what constitutes a Sabbath day. So, as we begin, welcome my brothers, my sisters, my love, my Israelite doves, my family who is undefiled. In Yeshua's name, bless you. Now, before we begin, I'd like to give everyone a moment to say a prayer before we start today. Shalom, shalom, shalom. My name is YISRAEI, and we will be talking about the Hebrew calendar days. Now, many people have gotten it wrong, trying to figure out what days and what festivals are we to actually celebrate and when. So today, I hope I can be the service, which I know I will, in my Father who is spiritually in me, will guide you through these challenging, confusing times and bring you into the newness of this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So everyone can properly know the days. And anyone that need a Hebrew calendar, we have them that also has man's calendar side by side with the Hebrew calendar. So that way you can see the difference of the days and how Mighty Father went by his calendar, different than how man goes by his calendar. And you can go to Yahweh, spelled Y-A-H-W-E-N, mentor, M-E-N-T-O-R, at gmail.com, and put in the subject line you would like to get a Hebrew calendar. And we will email it because it'll be in PDF. So it makes it more affordable for us to be able to get this out in the material to everyone. So just do that, and I will make sure in this video I leave all of the details and links at the bottom. So let's make sure I get some more light here. I'm sorry. All right. I think that should be good. I have to do that. And I have my mic on here, so. All right, so I took my notes here, and this is going to break it down for you. As you know, I have also another Hebrew calendar here, which is for the year of 2019. So it'll be looking something similar like this here. So they have all the months, and also we have a little bit of scripture at the bottom. So request that is very important, and they are highlighted to let you know and graph you through the days correctly. Now, as it is the season almost around the corner for Passover, once again, and many individuals and families are making preparations to celebrate this feast. But I will outline one season days listed on this year's calendar, and I thought it would be appropriate to create a newsletter out of this issue to clarify a few points for many of you out there as well. I will be referring to the third month, 30th day, and why it's there and what it means, which it is to make clear for you your wisdom and your understanding. Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Now, first, June 30th is marked as the beginning of the seasons, not a month. The beginning of seasons, not a month. So it is a season day, or one of the 4 divisions of the year. That's right. That's right. All new season days land on a Sabbath and are followed by the first day of the new month for that season. Okay, brothers and sisters? All first days of a month following a new season land on Sunday. Okay? Lands on Sunday. Come a little closer here. So it lands on Sunday. This is a truth as it follows with spring, which is why the beginning of the year, okay, is always on Sunday. And also when we get around to fall as well, which is why the Feast of Trumpets is always on a Sunday, okay? Always on a Sunday. It's a little dark there. I don't know why I'm getting these shadows. Excuse me, everybody. Keep getting shadows here. Probably have to edit that. Okay? So now here it is. We are seeing here clearly that with spring and fall, which is why the Feast of Trumpets is always on a Sunday, as stated in the Hebrew calendar, okay, what I have found is that there are, in fact, 30 days. That's right, 30 days a year, which gives the year of 360 days, 360 days, okay? Remember, Yah's calendar don't go with man's. Man made his own calendar, okay? Do your research. So here it is, 360 days plus 4, which would be leap days, separate days not tied to the months, that mark the beginning of the 4 seasons, okay? Which would be, if you add those 4 leap days, it would be 364, okay? But remember, Yah is even. So 360, okay? But we're going to get there. I'm breaking it down. Your brother YISRAEI, YESHOMBIYAH. Now, as we read in the Jubilee, chapter 6, verse 23, it clearly states, anyone have that book in hand right now? I'll give you a minute. Jubilee chapter 6, verse 23. In the first new month, it says, and in the 4th new month, and in the 7th new month, and in the 10th new month, watch this, are the days of remembrance. Are the days of remembrance, right? In the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of that year, or of that year, okay? These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. As we can see it in the Jubilee, still chapter 6, verse 30, all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days. And these will make the entire year complete, right? It is engraved and ordained on the heavenly tablets, okay? You seeing this in the Jubilee, y'all. So now understand this. Anyone can break this math down. Now 52 times 7 equals, right, 364 days, okay? But we are told that the months that Yahweh goes by is only 30 days long, as we see that in Deuteronomy 21, verse 13, okay? We also see it again in Deuteronomy 34, verse 8. Then we see it again, Numbers chapter 20, 29. So understand, brothers and sisters. So the season days that are commanded in verse 23, okay, what we read earlier of the Jubilee, chapter 6, have to be what? Separated to be bumped up to 364 days in a 52-week year. Now, this is what man has done, okay? Messed with Yah's calendar. Remember, we got 4 days that are leap days, okay? Because Yah only keeps a 30-day calendar. Okay? And I'm going to show you the cycle of why and how these leap days work. Okay? This is why it's important to request your calendar so that way it can be further broke down and shown to you on the calendar. That way you won't be breaking the law. Watch this. Otherwise, 30 times 12 is 360, right? Because we're going by Yah's clock, his calendar. Okay? 12 months, 30 days in each month. Comes out to 360. Now, when we pick up in verse 34 and then 38 of Jubilee 6 chapter, it even mentions new moons or new months and seasons, okay, we get to the moons, as separate and distinct items from each other, okay? Y'all hear me, brothers? You hear me, my sisters? Write this down. Understand. And now in verse 34 of Jubilee chapter 6, it also states, and all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the right path of the years. Okay? And will forget the new months with the seasons and the Sabbaths, and they will wrongly determine, okay, all the orders of the years. That's in Jubilee. Okay? Chapter 6, verses 34. Okay? We're just reading it. I took my notes, so I had to go back and forth from my book. So here it is. What is going on is that the man-made calendar has been flipped and dipped, okay, to dilute you of your truth, of your understanding of what Yah had put in your own book. So you can find, resurface, here it is, rediscover new information. So now here it is, which many will reckon that the months by the new moons. Now here come the moons, my brothers and sisters. The book of Jubilee, chapter 6, even breaks down the false observations of the moon, as with those tied to new moon's observance and lunar months. Okay? A lunar month is 29.5 days long, and 29.5 times 12, here it is, makes the year 354, right? Days. Not 364 as stated in verse 36. See? All right? For there will be those who will surely make the observance of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons. Here it is. And come in from year to year. Here it is. If you're doing wrong math, it will come in year to year 10 days too soon. That's right. That means your math is off. That means you didn't read in Jubilee chapter 6 and discover this. But see, the Father loves us. He works through all of us to spread the truth, and nothing but the truth, Almighty Yah, Elohim. So now here it is, in verse 37 of that Jubilee, for this reason the years will come upon them when they disturb, here it is, or misinterpret the order and makes an abominable day the day of testimony. Yeah. He said, will make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the pure with the unclean, and the unclean day with the pure. For they will go wrong as to the months, and the Sabbaths, and feasts, and jubilees. Okay? That's right there. We're reading it. Now in verse 38, for this reason I command that you testify, that you may testify to them, for after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new months in seasons, in Sabbaths, in festivals. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. So this is allowing you to see right there, brothers and sisters. Now, let's move forward. Because what I want to talk about now is what constitutes a Sabbath or a day. That's right. What constitutes a Sabbath? Because what we just broke down was the math and terminology. But now here it is. Let's go into theology of the scriptures, of the scrolls. And this, I broke it down so I want to go back book to book. So here it is currently, when we speak of time in relations to a day, just listen up, everyone. Many of us usually regard that day as 24-hour period. And that is due to traditions. It has been habit forming from generations to generations. But where did this 24-hour day originate? And furthermore, is it scriptural? We will examine those questions here, especially with regard to what actually, here it is, constitute a Sabbath day, according to scripture. Yes, brothers and sisters, I'm going to explain the origin of divisions in the day and process of the calendar of Yeshua's time frame of creation. That's right. Genesis to Revelations, okay? It is believed that in ancient times, to mark divisions in a day, the Sumerians, with their palms facing them, used their thumbs to count each of the 3 bendable, here it is, fingers of the forefingers on both hands. So it would look something like this, which taken together numbers 12 each. One hand represents night, the other day. Each segment of the finger represents an hour. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So watch this though. In the Samaritans, base number was 12 though. That's pagan, that's Gentile, that's man. But check this out. Unlike what we use as our base today, that being 10. 10 dimes in a dollar, 10 tens in 100, 10 hundreds in 1,000. So now you ended up here 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. What are the ones that's been down? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, Yah is even. Man is distorted. Building on this, the Babylonians developed a more sophisticated system to further measure time, using instead their base number 60, known as a sexagesimal number system, giving the hour 60 minutes, which in the later Latin became known as prima. Prima means in Latin minute, okay? Or the first small part meaning minute, which is 60 seconds in that minute, known as momento or seconda, okay? In the second, which means second, which is the small part meaning second, okay? And then they divided the day and the night into 24 equal hours. See? It's getting distorted, right? So my brothers and sisters, by the time of the Messiah, this system of 24-hour day was already in play at his time. Even though he did not acknowledge, here it is, he didn't acknowledge it, because the scriptures themselves bear out what constitute a day, without the double meanings of a 12 and a 24-hour period, okay? So we ain't gonna look at numbers. We're gonna look at scripture. What do the scriptures say, okay? So we have to look at Genesis chapter 1 first. Here it is. It is so funny how many people get tripped up by one chapter and a few verses in Genesis when the line upon line precept upon precept, the obvious is plainly revealed all over Scripture. Many of my brothers and sisters haven't figured that one out, but I'm going to help today. Your brother, YISRAEI, YESHOMBIYAH. Plainly revealed all over Scripture, that means that your understanding of that one chapter, which seems to contradict everything else, must be off. That's why we did the math first, beginning, right? Going back to the book of Genesis, beginning in chapter 1, verse 3, what do we see here, everybody? Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, it says, "Then Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light," right? Right? Everybody with me? In Elohim, in verse 4 of chapter 1, "And Elohim saw that the light was good, then he separated the light from darkness." That's Genesis 1:4. Then watch what happens in Genesis 1:5. "Elohim called the light day and the darkness night." Genesis 1:3-5, right there. Okay? Yah is light. The verse goes on to say that evening passed and morning came, making what? The first day. That's right. And now we are seeing, here it is, many take this and tend to run with it, saying that evening and morning constitute a 24-hour period. No, that's not what it's saying. We clearly see that the Elohim separated the light, right? Subsequently called day from darkness, known as night. Day and night were separated distinctly, okay? Set apart. The evening and the morning, having come simply, refers to a night period, right? That passed, in which essence meant that the work of creation stopped as an example to man. That's what you're seeing in Genesis. That's the example. What's constituting, which is days that Yah worked. He didn't work 24 hours. As the church might say, he created it all in one day. But they are saying 24 hours. Yah saying 12. For Yeshua himself said, and we'll take the literal sense here, I must work the works of him that sent me while it is what? Day. The night comes when no man can work. As we see in John 9, verse 4, right? So understand, brothers and sisters, the evening to morning period marked the night, caused work to cease, as when men sleep at night, for long ago, due to the lack of electricity, not counting those who were entrusted with a night watch or to be on guard, that occurred at night, right? Because thieves only come at night, they don't come during the day. Regardless of the light conditions, okay? Bring this a little closer. Of the night conditions, incidentally, the Hebrew word used for day in Scripture, I don't know why my phone doing this. In Scripture is most often yom or yom, Y-O-M, which means to be hot or warm, which reference to the actions of the sun. The sun is only out during daylight hours, right, y'all? Yom means day, meant literally the period of light. The period of light. That is generally 12 hours during the spring, okay? In fall seasons, right? And not a period of 24 hours with a day and night combined, okay? This is what these church pastors have been putting on people. And this is what man has been putting on people. Having people go by a 24-hour calendar, or a 24-hour day in more than a 30-day calendar. And not a period of 24 hours with a day and a night combined. And if a day and a night were one, what would be unique about the Sabbath? Okay? Think about it, brothers. Think about it, sisters. If whatever already rests on the night portion 7 nights a week, the unique thing about the Sabbath day is that the servants of Yah got the chance to rest on that day. Created for them. For the, the tabernacle, okay? The priests. It's showing you how they did things, how they followed things by the Hebrew calendar, what constituted the day for them, okay? Genesis 1 does not say that a day is evening to evening. It does not say that, my brothers and sisters. It basically shows us at what time creation took place, as we see in Genesis 1:5, right? And all the verses like it are simply showing that evening and night are tied to the morning and not to the other way around, like many believe, right? Those who say the day starts in the evening and drag morning with it, you'll notice that when the next morning comes, that was the time to create again, right? Then evening passed, morning came. So the previous day and its events were collectively done, showing that evening and nights are tied to the morning. Okay? This is wisdom, everybody. This is wisdom. Because there is a clear separation according to verse 4 of Genesis chapter 1. So here's the wisdom of understanding. Notice that the sun wasn't created until day 4. Meaning that Yah's presence acted as the sun or as light for the inhabitants, for the angels. That we all have come back in the flesh, in the body. This will allow you to understand that here in 1 John chapter 1, Revelations 22, verse 5, John 8, and verse 12, while he was present, it was day, okay? And when he went away, as we read them scriptures, right? Evening and night came, which was a new day, begin with Yah's return, because there was no sun, and Yah started day 2, creation, in the morning. Then on day 4, he created the sun to replace the function of his presence, right? Evening to evening day folks cite Genesis as proof of their claims. But notice that the verses says nothing about evening to evening at all. That's right. In fact, it states clearly that evening ends creation and the next morning starts the official next round of creation. Morning starts the day for Yah, and evening ends as well, which shows from just a few many scriptures as we can see. So it's clear how man has hoodwinked you, right, brothers and sisters? How the devil has sidestepped you. Because today, pastors not knowing, and some knowing the truth, they work only for the devil, though. So here's what I am saying to you, brothers and sisters, today. The 24-hour day is a human construct. You have to understand that Yah is all about separation, okay? And grouping us back together righteously. With that understanding alone, day can never be one with night. They both represent totally different things that are, what? Diametrically opposed. Once you understand that good cannot and should not exist with evil or with light, with darkness, you'll understand why day cannot be 24 hours. The devil always goes directly against Yah, right? We know that by now, right? If Yah says marriage is between man and woman, the devil says no, right? And causes man to break that law, right? And woman. The same goes for each and every law down the line. He has deliberately broken them all. Okay? That's the devil. And he has set out to recreate Yah's entire structure of existence in a corrupted way. All forced or brainwashed people to go by, here it is, the 24-hour day. Schools and universities, banking based on debt and interest, worthless, deflated currencies that are not backed by actual money, okay, which is gold and silver and so on, pharmaceuticals instead of herbs. He replacing everything. This is what the devil has done. And so on and so forth. As we study it out, it will begin to make sense, my brothers and sisters. Okay? That's right. But it goes deep, my brothers and sisters. Let me tell you clearly for your understanding. The example of day in Scripture, okay? This would be to Hebrews, bywords, a Hebrew word being translated as day, as bokar, which means dawn or break of day in morning. Bokar is used in Judges 16:1-2. Judges 16:1-2 verses, where it often translates as morning or the light of morning. Okay? Then, as we look here at Samson, then went Samson to Gaza, and saw there a harlot woman, and went in and slept with her. And it was told that the Gizonite, saying, Samson has come here. And they surrounded the place and laid wait for him all night. Okay, notice this. They even know the difference. By the gates of the city, and were quiet all night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. In a twisted way, this fulfills Yeshua's statement. As he said before, night is coming when no one is able to work. See, we don't operate at night. We operate during the day, okay? Everything is done during the day in righteousness, okay? Another Hebrew word used as day in some translation is shachar, spelled S-H-A-C-H-A-R, okay? Which means dawn in the Hebrew, and comes from another word, roughly the same spelling, which means to dawn or be early, okay? To deviate a bit, some hold that the day begins and ends at evening. Brothers, sisters, you cannot be violated unless you knew, but you cannot be violated if you didn't know. But today you're finding out the difference of how now to celebrate the right feasts on the right days, so you don't be putting blemishes on yourself. So now here it is, in that a 7-day Sabbath lasts from sunset to sunset. But neither of these assumptions are proven, okay, from the scriptures. So let me tell you, brothers and sisters, when the beginning of the day is spoken of in the scripture, it is usually done so by being referenced as the dawn of or the break of day. Seeing day involves light, right? Seeing day involves light, right? Involves light, right? And not darkness. So it cannot begin when it is growing dark outside, like some many false believe, right? Or misinformed, our brothers and sisters. The word shaikar, in addition to bakar, is another wonderful example of this. Shakar is used in a very similar passage of scripture that has Jacob wrestling with a messenger of Yah. Remember that? In Genesis 32, verse 24. Okay? These are all examples proving many of my brothers and sisters have gotten it wrong when it comes to Sorry about that. Open up the light here. When it comes to understanding the Hebrew calendar, because here in Genesis 32:24, we clearly see just Jacob was wrestling. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks, Shakar, right? Oh, just having problems with this phone. Shakar, right? And he said, I will not let you go except you bless me. Now in Genesis 32 verse 26, so dawn and not evening, according to the Hebrew word bakar and shakar, marks the beginning of a day, right? There we go. Let's turn it down somehow. Sorry about this movement, y'all. There we go. So now we see in Genesis 32 verse 26, okay? Dawn is dawn and not evening. And now we understand that here it is, Shakar or Bukar marks the beginning of a day. Something is definitely going on here. See that devil trying to work on me, my stuff, everybody? That's okay. We keep going. So now here it is. We see marks the beginning of the day, which is self-attested by that another Hebrew word, yom, occurs during daylight hours and not night, which will be instigating a 24-hour day theory. The next example in the Hebrew is mokarethim. Mokarethim. Mochorratham. Or mokarethim. That's how I pronounce it. Which means simply tomorrow or tomorrow, right? And we find this in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 17, in a passage that recounts a fierce battle between King David and the Philistines. David, as it reads, slaughtered them from twilight until evening of the next day, right? Of the next day. Mokorathim. That's the word. So here it is. 1 Samuel 30, verse 17. That's what we're seeing this in. His verse could easily been used by someone trying to prove it is. One second, guys. I might have to come down a little bit more here. There we go. So now we see David slaughtered them from twilight until the evening of the next day. Mokorathim. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 17. Now, we understand many have tried to prove that the day begins at evening theory, but it will be done so in falsehood, if you follow that, brothers and sisters. For the word Mokorathim, translated, which is meaning day, in that it is the morrow, meaning tomorrow, means only that the period of daylight following the current one is being mentioned. Note that both the twilight and the evening are mentioned, but not as beginning periods of the day, right? But rather as the final portion within that daylight period. Twilight, of course, refers to the time of the day when the sun is just below the horizon, right? Especially the period between sunset and dark, when light is diffused, right? This could occur during early morning as well, brothers and sisters. But here I believe the word twilight is speaking of early evening. Early evening, giving the fact that in Hebrew, neshepeth, which refers to a prevailing evening breeze, okay? Keep it in mind. David smited the Philistines from early evening of one day, although the night and up to the evening of the day that followed, okay? 12 hours, not the man 30 days and all, 31 plus some days, okay? A day is 12 hours. In other words, the smiting took about 24 hours for this particular fight. This is the only time there was 24 hours that it took to take out someone or create something, okay? This word mokorathim, to further disprove the theory of a 24-hour day, is also found in the book of Jonah, chapter 4, verse 7, right? In Jonah, chapter 4, verse 7, it reads, when dawn came the next day, mokorathim, illuminating once more that the next day, meaning the day that followed, began in the morning. This is in Jonah, chapter 4, verse 7, right? Again, for yet another example, my brothers and sisters, in a Hebrew word which means to be or make luminous, and to, here it is, illuminate, as we should all know, has to do with something emitting light, right? So now we understand something. That is to be full of light. Therefore, when we come to 2 Samuel now, okay, verse 32, we can again gleam in on the essential truth that has been highlighted in this article, which I have spent time putting together for you all. Shalom. Now, here it is that has been highlighted in this article for this and for this teaching, and that they took up, here it is, a hazel, and buried him in his father's tomb, which was in Bethlehem. And then Joab and his men went all night until the day dawned. Okay, remember the scripture? At Hebrew. So understand, my brothers and sisters. One sec. A day as evening, okay, is wrong. But here it is. Even a child knows that a day begins in the morning when the light appears and ends at evening, okay? So now here it is. When light appears and the and evening ends, when light diminishes, having nothing to do with night, which means it is not a period of 24 hours, but it indicates 12 hours as one day. That's right. Now, without explaining the story surrounding text, we will quote some verses that will further demonstrate the scripture that a day is actually from morning to evening. Okay? From morning to evening. First, I give you Judges chapter 19, verse 9. We have to go there. Judges 19, verse 9. The scripture says, when the man arose to go along with his concubine and servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father said to him, behold, now the day has dawned. To close, please spend the night. The day is coming and to an end, and spend the night here, that your heart may be, here it is, blessed. Then tomorrow you may arise early for your journey so that you may go home. See, they all lived under the Hebrew calendar and under the Hebrew clock. Okay? This is what you're learning here. This is what's going on. You're seeing the difference from what you thought was the truth, but now here it is. We can see it's clearly in the scriptures. Now, this next example is a bit graphic because we understand in Judges 19:25, verse 26, it reads, "But the men would not listen to him, so the man seized his concubine and brought her out to them, and they raped her." Yep, they raped her and abused her all night into morning. Then they let her go, and she, here it is, at the approach of dawn, okay, as the day began to dawn, right, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was, okay? Y'all see this? Into full daylight. So my family, often we read these fascinating accounts in the scripture that cause us to get so caught up in the details of the stories that we in turn miss the important points of truth, right? Now, concerning subjects such as the one we are covering herein, what constitute a day in scripture? Therefore, we are cutting to the chase to speak and giving you the meat of the text, dealing with the topic. The day means 12 hours. Okay? So let's move on to Exodus now. Chapter 18, verse 13. As we will read, so it's good I made my notes. Well, I had to go from the books to books to books. It came about the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, right? Y'all remember this. Exodus 18, verse 13. And the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. So let your brother YISRAEI, YESHOMBIYAH, break this down. That's right. The evening to evening Sabbaths. When Sabbath keeping believers speak of the Sabbath or observes it, this is usually entails a 24-hour evening to evening period. Okay? Now let us look at the reverence of this scripture. Beginning in the book of Nehemiah, in chapter 13, verse 15 through 19. Watch what happened. Verse 15. In those days I saw in Judah some treading wine presses onto the Sabbath and bringing in sheaves, here it is, loading donkeys, also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them. Here it is, this is Nehemiah. About that day in which they sold provisions. Verse 16. There dwelt men of Tyre, also there who brought fish and all manners of wares and sold them on the Sabbath. Wow. Unto the people of Judah in Jerusalem. Then I contended, here it is, with the nobles of Judah. Nehemiah going to talk to them about it. And said unto them, what evil things is this, what you do, that profane the Sabbath? Verse 18. Did not your fathers and did not our Elohim Yah bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel or the Israelites by profaning the Sabbath? Verse 19. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began, or here it is, it had begun to be dark before the Sabbath, here it is, I commanded that the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be open till after the Sabbath. This is Nehemiah. Okay? And some of my servants sat I at the gates, that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath. Now to elaborate on this verse 19, everyone. How can darkness fall on the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath? Huh? How? So here it is. Now, if the Sabbath occurs during the night as well and is supposed to begin at evening, doesn't the term "it begins to be dark" reference to the evening, right? It refers to the evening, at which point the Sabbath allegedly begins. So why do we have it that this was also before the Sabbath? This means that Sabbath rightfully occurs only during daylight hours, everyone. From morning to evening. When it begins to be dark, it is. The gates were commanded to be what? Shut. Shut. That's right. Not because Sabbath was about to begin, but because it would have been considered work. That's right. It would have been considered work. Closing them on the morning of the Sabbath, which therefore it cannot be done during the night of darkness. Okay? So it was done before it became fully dark, right? Somebody, they turning my phone down. Okay. Right? Another passage in Nehemiah further demonstrates this point. In chapter 4, verse 16, here it is, through 17, and we also see it in 21, verse 22 in some of your books. So we elaborated in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Right? And then verse 22, likewise at the same time I said, I unto the people, let everyone with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard for us and labor during the day, not at night. Fully, here it is. Finally, we come to the mother of all quotes dealing with this subject, everyone. It is found in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23. There we find the law pertaining to the Day of Atonement, right? It's going to the calendar now, okay? Because we did the math earlier, and it runs on 360 with 4 leap days. Many use this verse again to prove a 24-hour day, beginning at verse 27, chapter Deuteronomy 23. And we won't quote it entirely, okay? Here at Intelligent Voices of Israelites. You can read that. Because now what I'm going to read, here it is. On the 10th day of this 7th month, there should be a day of atonement. Moving down to verse 32 now. We read, it shall be unto you a Sabbath of what? A Sabbath of rest. That's right. And you shall humble yourself in the 9th day of that month at evening. From evening to unto evening shall you celebrate, here it is, your Sabbath. Which is basically, here it is, from morning to evening, and then morning to evening. Okay? Shall you celebrate your Sabbath? Now, first, let's us note that this is the only text wherein descriptive language is used to explain the duration of a Sabbath. And it is the one and only two that is known as a high Sabbath. Okay? Shalom? Which we'll explain shortly here at Intelligent Voices Israelites. Now, second, note this, that Yah mentioned both the 9th and the 10th day here. People tend to use this to say the 10th day begins on the evening of the 9th day. But that is confusing and misleading. The 9th day at evening is self-explanatory. And the 9th day is in and of itself its own day, everybody. Not the beginning of the 10th. This was a rare Sabbath. And here it is. It thoroughly explains by Yah regarding his observance. As he says, the other high Sabbaths was the first day of the festival of unleavened bread. That deals of which can also be found here it is, in Leviticus chapter 23 that we're in, preceding the first day of the festival of unleavened bread was what? Passover, which according to verse 5 of chapter 23 was commanded to be held according to the Hebrew sense, right? Between the evenings, whereas others translated evening, not with an S, okay? My brothers and sisters, get ready for one powerful wisdom of knowledge between evening, here it is, and the Hebrew Adam, or Yom, that refers to either 3 o'clock, according to the Pharisees, or dusk, according to the Sadducees, regardless of who was right, okay? Yah darkened the day from the 6th to the 9th hour to fulfill it, okay? Read the scriptures. It's right here. And the 9th hour being 3 p.m. is when Yeshua died, fulfilling the role of Passover lamb, right? As we see in Matthew 27, 46, 50, Mark 15, 34, 37, and then Luke chapter 23, 44, and 46, right? Now note that the first hour was reckoned as 6 a.m. in some books, in most books. Further proof that a day does not begin at evening, right, y'all? So somebody made an error. How could the 9th hour be 3 p.m. if the day started in the evening? Okay? The day gone already. Error regarding this was simple truth, has persisted for, here it is, this error regarding this simple truth has persisted for far too long. And please know that I do not make this point to say that the day begins at exactly 6 a.m., okay? Wherever you are, it exactly begins whenever the sun rises, wherever you are in the world, and it ends whenever the sun sets. Wherever you are in the world, a simple Google search can tell you when the sun rises and sets for your own given location. Now remember that the Passover was to be observed all night, as we read in the book of Exodus chapter 12, right? But in the morning, the Israelites were to return to their tents as commanded in Deuteronomy 16 verse 7, right? Because the morning was no longer Passover, but the first day of unleavened bread, right? Because the Passover, which ran throughout the previous night, connected directly to the first day of unleavened bread, right? This made that entire observance a high Sabbath. This leads us to ask, what exactly is a high Sabbath? We got to go to John, regular John 19, verse 31. And Yahudam, those of a tribe of Judah, therefore, because it was a preparation day, that the body should not remain upon the stake on the Sabbath, for the Sabbath day was a high day. So they sought Pilate to have their legs broken, so that they might not be taken away. Here it is, so they can be taken away. Remember that the Day of Atonement was called Sabbath by Yah himself back in Leviticus chapter 23. Remember? The 7th day Sabbath was not the only Sabbath observed by the Yehudim in Yeshua's day. The word high in John 19:31, which reference to the type of Sabbath they were preparing for, is in Greek word, which means large or great, like our English word mega. And it is associated with two other Greek words, which means greatest, which means greater or more. What does all this mean, my brothers and sisters? Well, it falls in line with exactly what we have been saying herein. A regular Sabbath was and is from morning to evening, but a high Sabbath or a mega Sabbath is larger than usual. This is because a previous night is attached to it. That's right. Again, there are only 2 high or mega Sabbaths found in the entire scriptures. And they are the first day of unleavened bread, which has prior night of Passover attached to it, and the Day of Atonement, both observed from evening of one day to the evening of another. Okay, Shalom? Yeshua once said wisely, while confronting a few Pharisees, "Why do you also transgress the command of Elohim Yah? Because of your traditions," he said, as he said in Matthew 15:3. "If this light is new to you, and you must chew the cud of it as well, then do so. But when light comes, if indeed it is light, then we must live up to its law. The tradition of man causes us to err, but when we learn the truth behind these false traditions, which in effect makes them nothing but darkness, then we are supposed to live up to what we know. For to me, we know to do and do not do, and what not to do. To him who do it, to him he is sin." James 4:17, right? So, brothers and sisters, I hope this has been a blessing for you to get this wisdom, this knowledge. So before your brother YISRAEI YESHOMBIYAH closes or end this study today, I leave you all with this once. For you to come to the light on this matter and be convinced of it, you must begin to observe the Sabbath as it has been laid out in Scripture the right way, and not as tradition dictates of man. For it says, "It is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness." Matthew 3:15. Now, that said, I urge you to study this out yourself. Only Yah and Yeshua can guide you to the full truth on this and all subjects. I hope you find light in the truth in your search regarding this important topic, but I don't take anyone's word, but only Yah's. I leave you with that, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Thank you for tuning in to Intelligent Voices, Israelites. Be sure to tune in next week.